this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'ma put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, our guest today, Dan, Jungleman, Kate. What is poppin', baby?
What's up?
How you feeling?
Nice to be part of the OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
or among them, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
you're here.
What's poppin', Berk? How you feeling today?
You're one of the friends, Jungle. You're one of the friends. I have a war wound. I'm bleeding. I just cleaned blood all off the keyboard. It was a real last minute scramble here. It's not looking good, cuz.
Where's Guapo?
Man.
I know. Guapo's gone. You're missing
away.
a finger. We're really running
My
thin here.
headphones are not working.
We need you. We don't have headphones here. It's all a fucking nightmare.
Help. Guapo.
Help us.
Come back, Guapo.
Lamanna.
For some reason, we
Landon.
decided to dress exactly alike today.
Yeah.
I forgot my white backwards hat.
Well, I mean, it's fine.
Wow, you really are each other.
Welcome back, Landon. How are you?
Landon's here.
I'm good. I
Hey,
didn't know-
Landon.
Hello.
Nice to see you in that seat again.
It's been empty.
Well, no, but
I was
other
there.
people were in there.
Oh,
but they could never replace you.
thank you.
No offense,
Appreciate
Melissa.
it.
We have filled it from time to time.
Yeah, Hunt was in there yesterday.
Melissa, your mic's gonna have to violate you a little more. You're a little quiet.
Sorry.
All right, before we get into things, we have a fun show for you guys today. I got an impromptu message here from Jungle. He's like, hey, some shit's going down online and I'm not here for it, so we gotta act fast. And it's like, well, you know, welcome to 2024, but we'll talk about it. Before we get into the main meat, though, I want to remind you guys that we do, or I have a meetup game coming up at Playground in Montreal. That's going to be happening on Wednesday, January 31st, 2 days after my birthday. So come and say hi. You know, maybe wish me a happy
Big
birthday.
5-0.
Great. Now I got an F-bomb in the read. Good job. We are going to be there with, or I'm going to be there with, with Ape Styles. Yeah, you guys weren't invited. I'm sorry.
We got showered.
Going to be there with Ape Styles and Xuan Lu. We're going to be doing $50 splash pots. There's also a 3K last longer for events number 3 and 13. That's the 350 mystery bounty, as well as the 1150 main event, which has 3 starting days, and I will obviously be playing that. The way the 3K bounty works is that you have to have a WPT global account. You need to have a minimum deposit of $20, or if you already previously had an account, keep a balance of $500 US. You just need to make that deposit in January or February, and you will then qualify. Whoever lasts the longest in these events will then be able to take home the $3,000 of added money. Be sure to head to the link in the description below or hit hashtag WPT Global in the chat. That'll give you all the instructions that you need for this series that's coming up at the Playground. Hope to see you guys all there. All right, Jungle.
Yeah.
What happened yesterday that you just realized
So
there's cheating online?
I heard some fucked up stuff.
Okay.
And,
Better late than never.
yeah. So I was like on the game, this, you know, the Bally's live game. Someone's telling me, oh, like actually everyone's using RTA online. I'm like, what? Everyone's using RTA? And he's like, yeah. Like if you look at the nodes that people, the decisions people are making, they're making almost perfect decisions on the flop and pre-flop, which is really easy to solve using RTA. It's pretty easy to build RTA for that. I mean, relatively speaking, he even described the process. He wasn't advocating it. He was just saying he knows because he's like looked at people's decisions in detail. I don't want to say who he is, and I think that he's a very honest person. I don't think that he's like doing it himself. But I think he knows. I think he does know people, in fact. And I want to get into this conflict of interest and how to solve it with knowing people that are doing it and who's not, and what to do about it with this whole cheating thing. Because I think it's absolutely solvable. I think that cheating online is absolutely solvable, and I think we're just like not trying. But basically saying that because Turn and River are people are playing just terrible on Turner River and they're playing perfect on like the first 2 streets, it's essentially a sign that they're using RTA for the streets, because this shows like a lack of concept of someone's game. It's very, very hard to solve RTA or use RTA for Turn and River, because it just requires a far more complex decision of alignments of nodes and all of that. And it's just not really practical to align, whereas you just like plug in whatever for a preflop decision and boom, it's right there. And preflop's probably the easiest one. And a very important one.
Well, for quite a long period of time, preflop charts were just kind of accepted as the norm.
Yeah.
There was a big wave like around the pandemic or so where I know GG did a sweep of bans. A lot of well-named pros got suspended for a period of time because they were using their own Evernote docs or hand-to-note docs, whatever, that were keeping their preflop charts. They basically got warned when it was all said and done. Now that kind of became faux pas, where I don't know if you recall, but there was a big debate between like Ike, Dominic Niche, and a few others, where they were basically saying like preflop charts or like online, not that big of a concern. Like if the pool is weak enough, they'll spot the Rex, the charts, that type of stuff. But then there was the wave of GTO Wizard being utilized in real time, the Fader Cruise stuff where there was an actual RTA. And I think that kind of like brings us up to current day, where I assume you're talking about Jeremiah that is talking about all this stuff. He's been on the show. We've discussed it at length. These people who are using RTA in tournaments and cash, I don't know if it necessarily matters all that much that they're not putting out perfect solutions. It's still just going to do far better. It's going to outperform the vast majority of pools until maybe you get to like the nosebleeds.
Mm-hmm. I actually was a little bit familiar with all this kind of thing. I think it's going to be really hard to stop specifically preflop charts, but you probably could to a fair degree. I mean, I was actually not using preflop charts because I knew for a fact that you're just not supposed to use it.
Okay.
Whether you believe that or not. I mean, and it's like kind of annoying to me to realize, oh shit, I'm playing against everyone that I didn't realize I was playing against everyone's using preflop charts or whatever. I mean, I can kind of see it a little bit, but definitely I'm seeing a lot of strange decisions that don't look like preflop charts. But I'm not playing more on Club GG lately, where you take more than 5 seconds, your hand is just automatically folded. So maybe it's a little bit harder to use it there. You have to be like locked in, and if you're gonna multi-table or you're gonna fold your hand. And I've totally folded my hand on many different occasions, and I'm not like,
it's
don't
legit
have time.
5 seconds.
I don't know if it's actual 5 seconds, but it
quick.
feels like it's super quick. If you just like wrapped up in a hand, real easy to just forget about another hand, auto fold it. That being said, it like is annoying to me and just makes me think, well, this is like, first of all, like if everyone's gonna do it and if it's just totally unstoppable, I feel like there's only, I mean, you could totally just like take away the rule to do it, and obviously it makes me mad. I'm sitting here getting shafted, and then everyone's doing this, and on top of that, it's like ruining the player pool and making it harder for everyone, and like giving the VIPs or the fish or whatever you want to call them every reason to not play, because it's like, oh, the pros have got like all this crazy software and all these sorts of things, and they're not supposed to be using it, but they are. And there's collusion going on too, or whatever it is, and like no one ever does anything. Now there's bot rings and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, you can do things. There's totally examples in other areas of the world, and in poker, I actually didn't realize that GG did that they just put out a wave of bans. So it's kind of in the vicinity of what I imagined the response should be. I was actually imagining something a bit more severe, especially if people like continue to what's the word? Transgress. There's actually patterns, delinquent patterns that people tend to follow, as it turns out. Like I found this on accident, and like when I got like speeding tickets when I was driving, and I like, was doing research into it, became interesting to me when people do bad things. Like for some reason, the idea of someone like doing something bad and the concept of cheating and like why cheat at all, it's like goes back to the original concept of the podcast. Suffer why? Why be honest? Why are people fucking honest? Why is it that, say, for example, you go through like a foreign country and, you're a wealthy person from one of those countries. This has gone through my head a lot of times. Why does this taxi driver just like decide not to like kidnap me or whatever, or like kidnap whoever? I mean, I have to take security precautions on this too, but why does this just like happen at such a limited frequency in comparison to like the potential upside or why does even like a lot of this honesty exist? And if you look into it, I mean, there's various reasons why. And there, you can look into things that are a bit related, like why is there no crime in Dubai, Singapore, Japan, et cetera, but crime is rampant in London, United States. By the way, those places are far more dangerous than almost every foreign place I've ever been to. Is the irony? Is very first world places. And if you look into the real why of why this is, you do actually find answers, and there are absolutely solutions for dealing with things like cheating, and it's not like that hard to deal with in theory, based on what I've seen in other places where problems are far more severe.
You talking cutting people's fingers off, or
huh?
Are you talking about cutting people's fingers off? What are we?
Well, that's
what
like
kind of severe punishment are we talking here?
I mean, doing stuff like that is like really, really extreme. You would end cheating.
Berkey almost got his finger cut off today, so.
Well, you would totally end cheating if like the price for cheating was your finger gets cut off.
Right.
I mean, this would end cheating like within a week.
It probably would.
But then you'd have a different problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of gets at the point. Well, like,
right.
Yeah, now we've stepped into the other side of the boundary where now we've gone completely insane. And now people are missing a bunch of fingers.
Okay,
but
so you lose
cheating
half
has
a finger.
stopped.
Right.
But like that kind of, it also like shows where the solution is. So, you tap it back, you tailor it back a little bit and say, okay, well, our fingers are cheating's not quite that bad.
Right.
Although,
That's
by
too
the way,
severe, but maybe it needs to be a more severe punishment than what is currently happening.
You can make it logical in the sense of like you can mathematically create incentives where like cheating's just not rational. It's actually rational for a lot of these guys to cheat from their perspective when like it looks like they're not going to get caught, other than like fucking the will of God or whatever is going to punish them.
So this is worth digging into, because I think that like you're touching upon a lot of the community's gripes, but I'm not seeing a clear path to addressing this type of stuff.
Well, we're going to get into that because, I came here the fucking next day because I'm like, I want to do something. I'm tired of this shit.
Okay, well,
I'm tired of people doing nothing. And I sat there and ranted for fucking 15 minutes and no one said a word. And I'm like, fuck this. Let's do something.
Well, let's talk about like what is currently in place. So currently you're talking about there being a fair amount of hurdles. You're saying that it's easy to dissuade people from cheating, but I wholeheartedly disagree. The big thing about online, not just poker, but in general, is that there's a high level of anonymity. So people remain anonymous. They don't have any fear of being caught, and they're able to just reuse and recycle a bunch of different anonymous accounts, right? So
They're also not in jurisdictional. So it's not like you can do legal stuff.
Right. Almost everything is unregulated too, to Melissa's point, which is very valid. So what we're looking at here is the wild, wild west of sorts, and you're asking operators to be extra responsible and push through this code of ethics that is very expensive to police and also costs them a ton of customers. So if they strengthen their KYC, where they need like a ton of information, like photo ID, address, social security, like bank account, like to the point where if your account is closed, there is no duplicate account to create. They've just now pushed away every single recreational who just wants to get involved with Bitcoin, right? So how do you solve this problem in a way that doesn't dissuade operators from operating as usual? Like, you don't want them to cut off their nose to spite their face.
That's actually a very good point. My first thought, as you was explaining that, was that the populations would be a bit divided in where they would actually go to play. I mean, when you don't want to do things such as KIYFC or what KIFC, that was my first suggestion too. It was like just what is this? Know your customer.
KYC, know your customer. Yeah.
KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Now I want a bucket of chicken.
All right, what's the exact acronym so I get it right?
KYC.
Know your customer.
Know your customer.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
To be fair, so, well, why would you not want to do that? I can see some valid reasons, like it is a pain in the ass a little bit, whatever. I mean, it seems like if you do it and then you're registered, why not? I mean,
well,
that
okay,
doesn't
so
seem like that much of a
here's the
hurdle.
easy example. Are you familiar with like how party poker is operating these days?
No, but this is good stuff to talk about.
Okay, so extremely above board. Their KYC is like second to none, and their high stakes completely died because you can't get money on there.
Oh,
It's just impossible to deposit more than like $1,000.
no,
So
really?
everything just crumbled from the top down, and they're basically just like a mid-stake, low-stake site now. Which
But why can't they KYC and allow like crypto deposits? Is that not a thing?
well, as far as I understand, like crypto is just not attached, right? So it's largely anonymous in and of itself. And I think that is where the disalignment from KYC comes from. And maybe I'm wrong.
Exchanges make you KYC and deposit large amounts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking the stronger the KYC, it seems like the easier the money should be able to go on. But I guess that's
maybe.
not the case.
And they might use Luxem Pay too. I'm not totally familiar. I just know
it seems like it's a payment processor problem, not a KYC problem.
Well, you're right, but that tends to go hand in hand with regulation, right?
Okay.
Like I might be understating or overstating the importance of the KYC to the process of why it eliminated high stakes, but I just know it's really hard to get money on party poker. Yeah. And part of that is the hoops that you have to jump through with the KYC protocols. Another part of it is probably just like regulation. They're much more in the regulated market, as is PokerStars, than GG, for example.
Yeah, there's probably like rules against crypto unregulated, heavily regulated.
Yeah, I would presume, but I truly don't know. Anyway, point being is that there's that hurdle of keeping games soft, because to your point, to bring this back to the broad, you're right, customers are just going to choose where they go. App games are completely insecure. You're currently playing on them. So it's not like as if people make decisions based off of security. They're certainly choosing based off of where they think they're making the most money.
I think all of this can be kind of put into some sort of visual diagram so we can see how the multiple different elements are at play. And there's a couple of things that you are mentioning that are contrasting in some ways. Like you mentioned, like the softness of the game, which is kind of like, how do you say, it's antithetical to the whole idea of cheating, because you're using something like a spreadsheet or whatever it is for a preflop chart to play, because it seems like if the games are that soft, like what's the real big deal with people using some spreadsheets or whatever? And then you can just say something like, okay, like why even have like this like wild rule if this is the problem? But it appears that this is not really the problem that's going on. It's actually the case that people are using this and it's like making the games tougher and tougher and tougher, and there's no VIPs, and softness is not really a bit of an issue. Like it seems like there's a point where, let's put it like this, there's a point where like the incentive becomes, okay guys, we're no longer going to have these Excel spreadsheets, and this has to be a rule because the games are getting too tough. But if the games are not too tough, like who cares? And you just don't make it a rule. Like this, that's definitely a possibility too. Like the rule is relatively arbitrary. It's just the breaking of the rule. That's where it becomes cheating, because if these rules can't be respected, then there's no point in having them. And that's where my dilemma comes from, is it just seems like people are just overstepping these boundaries over and over and over to the point of like, it becomes the point of like, what's the point of respecting the rules? And absolutely what you're talking about with the KYC, know your customer, KYC, that does seem like a big thing. And this seems as the solution for this seems, or for me to talk about that more, I think I need to know the details of that, of how that exactly would work. It definitely seems as though there's got to be, I don't 100% understand.
Account, like in that location, you need to have like a bank account or a residential, plus residential.
When Americans wanted to go overseas after Black Friday, they had to like go set up an address, set up a bank in Canada or Mexico or whatever. It tends to be the same for the majority of these other places. But there is something I want to pull out here outside of the KYC stuff. What you're speaking to is, basically projecting like a code of ethics onto the community as a whole. And I think when you use the real world example of like, why is it when I go to Dubai and I get a cab, this guy doesn't just kidnap me type of thing? And it really just comes back to some like moral code that we all as a society operate under. The issue becomes that like the incentives to break moral code, especially in an anonymous environment like online, is incredibly high. And I think you can actually speak to this because you experienced this, right? There was a point in time where you were actually a part of an app game where the vast majority of people were ghosting one another, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So like going along that path, it is very gray, right? Like you can like speak a little bit to that point, I guess, like
sure,
where the gray comes in.
Well, I think actually it's not that gray. I think that, let's put it like this, that not all like bad actions are weighted the same. I actually do agree that I've done something bad with the multi-accounting, although this is how I look at it with the multi-accounting in this situation. So a bunch of people were multi-accounting was true. And even as a precursor to me doing it, I asked the question, so are most people multi-accounting? And the answer is yes. And there was all kinds of stuff going on. And I knew personal friends of mine that did this. And I do want to talk about the friend dynamic in this because there is an incentive when it comes to protecting the community, but also protecting your friends that has to be discussed a little bit and how people can traverse this issue while protecting the community, but not like betraying their friends. I think this is an important point.
Yeah.
So in this situation, what I basically came to the conclusion was that if there was even one person that was not multi-accounting, I was a thief to that person.
Correct.
And so I was on equal level with everyone else, but to that one person, I was a thief. And therefore, I've stolen money from that one person. That was the conclusion I came to. I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, I was like, okay, well, I can't argue with this logic. Therefore, it's only going to be the case that if I multi-account, everyone has to be doing it effectively.
Right.
Where you start doing this thing where you're breaking the rules and have this logic of you can break the rules, you can keep, like someone else can use the same logic and be like, okay, well, this person's going to break the rule. I'm going to break the rule too. And you can see how this becomes dangerous where
they'll think if the other person not doing it, then other people are, and then I'm, like losing out on EV or whatever.
Well, yeah, it becomes the tragedy of the commons situation, which means basically everyone wants more and more and more for themselves. And so they everyone collectively kind of sacrifices the community for the sake of like their own personal gain. It fucks up everyone in the end. And it creates this sort of like dynamic of escalation that the only solution is go the opposite way, which is what you see from like effectively martyrs in history that have like decided, okay, well, this sucks and sick of war and we're going to take it upon ourselves to do something. And they'll like sacrifice themselves for the sake of like the common good kind of thing. And that's like the opposite direction. But if you do break the rules and you justify it by like, or you have no justification, someone can just come along and say, well, I'm going to, just keep escalating. And then the other person can escalate. And you see this all the time in all kinds of different ways.
Yeah, oftentimes it's how we land on rules, right? Is that we create some sort of boundary, somebody breaks it, and then it just becomes a matter of like, how common is this to be broken? If it's the vast majority of people are going to break it, then that's the new rule. Yeah. Right. Like using preflop charts would be a good example. If 90% of people are just using them anyway, then the new rule just becomes preflop charts are okay.
Right. Well, I mean, on this point, I think this kind of does in fact get at the root of a lot of different things because it's kind of like, well, what's the point of doing anything? And I would just say that, you should consider, well, what do you actually want to have happen? If you want like a battle where everyone's playing and everyone knows the perfect preflop game, then there you go. I mean, now the rule is everyone can use perfect preflop strategy, and now you're a fish, in fact, if you do not use them.
Right.
I mean, this is certainly a possibility. If you want a game where people can make preflop mistakes, then you've got to ban preflop charts, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Maybe I'm the fish because I'm not using these things myself, and like everyone is.
No, I think we all align.
Just stupid.
Yeah, I think we all align in what you're saying here. Me especially, like as a live guy, like I would never play online because of that big disadvantage. Like,
well, I mean, this is kind of what happens when people start doing things such as having all these RTA and all this like software that helps in addition. All the time is like they now push away guys like you where you're like, well, I know what I'm going to have to deal with. And, you have to use the damn preflop charts or whatever else it is to really compete. And why do that? It's stupid to do that. Then you become like the person who's not being responsible for yourself to do that.
I think he just called you a whale.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I didn't. I just said
it's okay. You're not wrong.
Well, if everyone's using like,
but you will be
put it like this:
considered.
if everyone's using fucking RTA and making perfect decisions, I'm a whale. I don't want to play against someone who's playing perfect decisions. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Why would I play against someone who's playing GTO?
Right. So the question then that we need to get to is, you think this is solvable? I'm very much of the impression that it's not. I'm very much of the impression that competitive environments that are that have money attached to them just are never really utilized online. If you look at esports, if you look at chess, in a competitive realm, they happen online, but never when money's involved. The second money becomes involved, the desire to cheat goes through the roof. So
People cheat a lot in like free games.
Yeah, that's true too. Like we have this story of Ali fucking cheating in chess for no money versus Brewer.
Like CS:GO, they have the wall hacks. Like people are always gonna cheat. Like
even if it's just pride on the line. So I guess like that brings the question to, what do you see as a potential solution here that's getting overlooked by these operators?
So here's the deal. Like, you're kind of getting at this underlying point of like, not just cheating, but all evil or whatever you want to call it in general. You can never really remove all evil, but you can make it more and more diminished. Same thing with cheating. I mean, it's really the same thing. And if you alter the perspective in which you look at things, you can even see that good and evil are like not exactly that dissimilar, except that one is just something more preferable than the other overall, and one has like a different payoff of distribution, a different like way of feeling than another, et cetera, and it's kind of just like what you end up choosing. At least that's how things look like in my theory. As far as this goes with cheating, like if you look at all the different permutations based off the regulations and whatever, you know, and like how long the time banks are and what the structure of the game is and all of that, and look at markets and things such as that, you can see like there's all kinds of ways that people will end up cheating, but you can certainly diminish within isolated environments the incentives for cheating. I mean, you can look at many cases in which they've done that. You can look at what GG has done and what has worked and what hasn't worked, and you can implement things such as severe bans when people break certain kinds of rules. You can make the prospect of cheating wildly undesirable if you have the right kinds of rules and actually enforce them. In that sense, cheating is definitely solvable. Whether it's going to be solvable for every site ever online, I mean, that's not up to me or whoever. That's up to the operators of those sites. But if they care about what their business looks like and things like that, if they care about honor or whatever, you know, various abstract value, then it's something to consider. So, I mean, I would have to understand the individual sites to look at how it should work for each one. But definitely the theme of the idea is if you get caught cheating, it like really sucks, and and that multiplied by the percent chance that you actually do get caught cheating becomes a far less valuable proposition than just playing fairly, is what you really want to have happen by like a big multiplier. I don't know what the true multiplier should be, but it should be like 3 times worse to cheat than to not cheat, is my personal guess.
And I think that's right. I just think that we've just seen too much to the opposite of that, right? For a period of time there, like pre-Black Friday, maybe even slightly thereafter, I think everybody was very terrified of the letter of the law that online could execute, right? Getting banned was just like a death sentence back then. But it didn't really happen all that often, you know. Even situations of like Bonomo, who was one of the early multi-accounters, like, yes, he got banned from Party, but you know, he was able to find his way back. And I think that's great. Like the redemption stories in this community are really good. But somebody like Ali and Jake, who currently are basically serving like an indefinite ban from not just online, but even live venues, to my knowledge, are still capable of getting action down.
Well, I mean, so my response to that would be, yeah, they probably shouldn't, but like I'm sure they're sitting there thinking like they would far rather play still on these sites. I mean, it's just one of the things you can do.
Like it just used to be easier, at least.
I mean, to coordinate all the sites to decide to ban, you know, all cheaters or whatever it is would be very, very hard, especially with incentives to ban like pros.
That's kind of the thing that I'm getting at, is like the only working solution we've seen in practice is the Jake Ali ban, where across the board all sites uniformly kind of worked together and said these are the most egregious cheaters we've seen in a decade, you know, since Russ Hamilton. And then what really put the nail in the coffin that I don't think we have enough of is they then got banned from live tours, right? You don't see them at PokerGo any longer. You don't see them on WPT. Like they've been turned away from EPT. That's really the threat, is when you take away their ability to ever earn again, period, right? Because now it's not the anonymous account of Money Taker 6ix9ine that was banned. It was the actual human being of Jake and Ali that were not just banned from these sites, but also blackballed from the community as a whole. That's going to take cooperation, right? That's going to take these sites working together and getting some sort of blacklist down where there are certain offenses that you can commit that will just get you blackballed across the board the way casinos used to do it in the mafia days, right? But I just don't think that, I don't think that they want to work together. Well,
they're a little harsher back
then. Yeah, I mean, they're still dragging Lake Mead right now, right?
There's a lot of holes in the desert.
I could see them working together against crushers. Yeah, I could see that absolutely happening. Like,
well, if you're an effective cheater, you will be a crusher.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the fact that it worked at all with those two people shows that it's certainly possible. And I also think that to take someone's ability to earn away, period, is something that requires some pretty massive offenses. Yeah. So to be fair, like, you wouldn't start off even with someone who has done something pretty bad, such as I think if someone does do this and they get their account banned and then they make another account, I think this is pretty damn bad, actually. I think that they should start getting like their money confiscated and things like that.
Well, that already happens to some degree, but the problem is that it just becomes a private slush fund for these operators. Like, we don't really see returns on that. I think that, like, kind of giving people the death sentence, we're being really light. Like, if what we presume to be true is true of like Jake and Ali, where they took, somewhere between 2 and 10 million out of the community, if this were the real world, which technically it is, but like, if this were just like corporate America, white collar America, this would be like a RICO case. Like they would be up for like money laundering charges. They would be up for, grand theft larceny and like all these other things. Like you can't just, racketeering. You can't just like, steal millions of dollars from a system and just like walk away scot-free.
It really is wild that there is no criminal like avenue to go down.
Well, because it's
I know it's an unregulated market.
Right. It'd be like
SBF get in trouble though. Like,
well, he got off though.
FBF?
Yeah.
No,
SBF. I mean, he got a pretty light sentence.
Did
he got a lot of charges dropped.
Yeah, I think like 40 charges were dropped.
I mean, he still had to like go to court and everything.
Yeah.
That was offshore.
That was offshore, but like the online poker stuff, it would be the equivalent of like you and I being drug dealers and me robbing from you,
right?
Kind of thing. It's like, well, we're both at fault here, like we're both operating in a black market that the government wants to shut down anyway.
Well, poker's a lot less. It seems weird to compare poker to drug dealing.
Just comparing it in
hurting people's lives kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, you can make the same argument for gambling, but that's not my point. That's not the comparison I'm trying to make. Yeah, I'm just trying to make the comparison that like you're operating
not a regulated market.
Two unregulated markets, right? Yeah. Like there's a difference between being a pharmacist and a guy slinging pills on the corner. Is basically what my take is.
Okay.
But anyway, as far as like problem solving goes, we've dedicated dozens, if not hundreds of hours at this point to helping eradicate cheating online. And I'm at my wit's end where it's like the only answer that I have is that it's gonna be really fucking hard. Like technology just advances so quickly. We know that like GTO Wizard exists in the public realm. Nobody can even begin to put their finger on like what type of RTA exists in the private realm. But obviously anything that can be created for commercial use can be created on steroids for private use, right? So the fact that sites aren't able to easily detect these types of cheaters, the fact that the community is called upon itself to kind of police and regulate its own market, the fact that money moves so easily between these parties without it being frozen, like in almost every instance of somebody being caught as a cheater, like Jake and Ali being a great example, very few funds were confiscated. In their instance, it might have been like a few 100,000, and we might be talking about like upwards of 10 million.
Isn't even considering like the bots.
The bot rings, right?
So that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah, like ACR potentially just had a $10 million bot ring. My best guess would be that we'll see like 1 to 5% of that money returned. So it's just like the incentives to steal are so high and the punishment is so low, especially without like actual law involved, that I just for the life of me can't follow any sort of solutions.
Is that where they actually confiscate like all the money in the accounts as well?
Yeah, but these accounts know that they're doing nefarious things, so they're constantly just withdrawing, transferring peer-to-peer.
I don't know if they're always doing that or not. It's like kind of a lot of effort to like continuously do that, and to remember to do that, because it's pretty easy to get lazy and all of that, I would just think.
I mean, these
operation.
Yeah, these bot operations aren't like just
like
one guy
operation.
in his basement chilling and finding a way to make money. Like it's a company. It's a corporation.
It's a whole ring.
Right. Like they have
multiple accounts.
There was I can't remember how many hundreds of bots were on this list that were putting in hundred or millions of hands of volume. Like this is a 24/7 type of scaled operation, I think.
And this was able to get around KYC as well.
KYC is there but minimal, right?
Yeah, you don't have
it's
to.
unregulated.
You don't have to submit like a bank account or
Like a photo ID.
Yeah,
kind of
maybe you have to do
ID.
an
I think you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not as rigorous as the.
Well,
regulated
it's possible that it seems like this question will be begged in the future in other markets as well. If people don't have rigorous KYC, where like the age of AI is coming, and deep fakes are possible in all kinds of crazy ways. It seems like this problem is just like there has to be some kind of solution, or other areas can be at risk as well.
Yeah,
I would think. It would just seem like more rigorous KYC needs to be necessary until people just stop being pieces of shit.
Well, I also think it's tough from the consumer standpoint, because we benefit a lot from the lower thresholds, right? Like we can move money a lot easier. We can play a lot simpler without as many hoops to jump through. We get a lot more dumb money in these markets. Like, and this I'm sure all applies to like other markets as well, like crypto or whatever the case may be. The more regulation there is, the tighter the ship that's ran, and the less free money there is for the casual consumer. And for poker specifically, like that's not really great.
It sounds like these things are somewhat related, because it goes back to this idea of like, okay, on one hand, we're worried about people doing sharp things and taking advantage of the system, but on the other hand, we also want people to be stupid,
correct,
and give their money in. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, yeah, they're definitely at odds with one another, and that's why you want the fair marketplace, right? That's why you don't want the cheaters, because you are so heavily incentivized to welcome in new money and just let it be casual consumer money rather than the sharp money at the top. The sharps are going to get the money anyway, even just through skill. So it's like to add a layer of nefarious activity on it so that they can just get it faster and get more of it, get a bigger piece of the pie. It feels very doom and gloom. It's hard not to see it through that lens.
Yeah, I can see how this is definitely a big issue. I think I don't know. I would like to think about this one a bit more to stop things like bot rings. It's going to be quite a challenge. I think it helps a lot to understand the way these like marketplaces really work. But it sounded like there weren't so many. At least when I've been playing high stakes, I can say that I haven't really felt as though there have been many bots at like 2550 or whatever.
Yeah, I think one of the reports said that there weren't really many above 510.
Yeah, that was the PLO report.
Jay Nandis.
Yeah, basically everything was like 1, 2, and below, because the bots weren't super sophisticated, but they were good enough to beat.
Oh, that reminds me. One of the solutions for finding these kinds of things would be mass data analysis, and there are people doing this kind of thing. And one of the things they could do is just simply like create reports and sell them to the sites, and this would, it'd be really hard for the bots to hide that. Like, how are you you would have to now create a bot that has a capacity for human error, and it would emulate a human somehow by like not being perfect.
Right. Well, that's how the community is finding a lot of these situations, is through MDA. And the frustration, I think, is that it seems ridiculous that the player pool is able to gather enough data on their own, decipher what doesn't look human, and then have to submit a report to the site itself.
Yeah, they should be systems that are already built into the operators themselves.
Right.
We also don't know how many they've caught without saying it.
That's true too.
They're not incentivized to tell us that they've caught a bunch of
at
bots
this point,
on their
though.
site.
At this point, though, aren't they?
Well, yeah, maybe, but I don't really think so, because it just wouldn't it be better to just kind of get rid of them and sweep it under, like, instead of making it look like it's a bigger problem?
I mean, I guess you could make an argument that the second there's some sort of public display of this account is perceived to be a bot, then you immediately take action and say, we've banned this account.
Yeah.
It actually was a bot. Like we confirmed your, it's tough. I don't know how much you want to juggle PR versus just being honest and transparent and saying like, look, we are actively on the problem and you can trust us.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a good thing though. At this point, it's probably becoming more beneficial to be open about it, just with the way the public perception is of stuff.
Right. All right, Jungle. I know that you kind of have a heart out here in a couple minutes. Any closing thoughts you have on this particular subject matter?
I would like to understand this dynamic a bit more. Give me 1 second. I really need to order.
In the lab, Jungle.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of, I am in fact kind of getting in the lab of sorts. I'm like kind of perusing around various different points in the whole system of the poker economy and starting to get more of an idea of how things work and why these problems exist and what solutions might be relevant, because it's now becoming more my incentive to do this, because I had this idea, okay, I'm going to create a community. I'm going to try to make poker more feasible as a more feasible of a greater than zero sum situation where now it can like thrive and not like constantly people have to, survive by devouring each other to a fair extent. I mean, it's not 100% like that. I mean, because of the fact that it has existed for a long time, but it definitely thrives a lot off of like weak competition specifically. And that's a big factor in how poker survives. And it really worries me because of like all this stuff that's coming out of the powerful software and all these sorts of things. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, like it's not that hard to get pretty good, at least from my view. I mean, I'm still sitting here and whenever I play, I'm not very impressed a lot of the time, to be honest. So I'm thinking, like, what's going on here, guys?
Yeah, we saw you last night. It was a real snooze fest for you. You just couldn't be bothered.
I'm a bit jet lagged and all that. But when I played online, I've seen some good things for sure. I mean, games have overall gotten tougher, but there's plenty of soft spots. There's plenty of various different solutions to things, and really, I'm realizing how complicated things truly are.
Do you think live is as zero sum as like all other environments, or do you think that there's some element of it that's like a little bit positive sum because it's so much more social?
So I think there's various hidden positive aspects to things and sides of things that make things closer to fair than they actually are, than they actually may appear. Such as like in the defenses of guys like Ali. Not the defenses, but more like devil's advocate a bit of Ollie and Jake. Like they were still like good poker players and worked on their game and all of that. Like they, now that they've cheated or whatever, now they've shattered their reputation, all the benefits that come with that, then getting branded as cheaters. I mean, it's hard to say whether they're really like profiting. They like effectively decided to trade all these sorts of valuable things for like a bit of extra money. Like, was it really worth it? And they did do things that actually were like fundamentally deserving of getting that money. I have realized things like that are like how the nature of duality works in a lot of these kinds of things. And hidden upsides of poker is it really is like a good way of training your ability to critically think and find the truth. I found in the same sense that a sport might like train your muscles to like, train you to be fit and like run fast, or train you to like actually practice leadership or whatever it is. It's actually a very similar principle. So in that sense, there is a greater than zero sum element that's kind of missing. And they actually have found that that's a big element in social impact, by the way, is like the effect of sports and like why sports exist. What happened?
Nothing. You're good.
Okay. So like there's some greater than sum elements as far as like making it greater than zero sum so that everyone can be okay, I think this Uber's here. Okay. As far as making it greater than zero sum in the sense of like everyone can be like pursue life in kind of a free way and be not financially locked up, I would think would be a good description of it, because I'm sitting here thinking, well, if people like, what is wealthy to be wealthy? What is like a situation where happiness is maximized? And you have to beg the question, like, how much money do you really need? How much money does everyone really need? And what is like the points of the benefits of all the money? It really like gets to the core of a lot of different things. But I think it might be possible to do that with poker, but certain things needs to be changed. It really takes like a holistic view of all the different elements of things and like truly understanding why things are the way that they are, and like what ways they could be better, and what the sides of things could be negated that could be worse, and what actual things can be feasibly changed, and what the direction of the evolution of the game has gone. One thing I would like to add is that actually things have gotten a lot better in poker in a way. There used to be like wild, blatant cheating for a long time, and people shooting each other in the legs back in the like 1960s or whatever it was. And I feel like I don't even understand how this has happened, but not a whole lot of that is going on to my knowledge. And that feels like a pretty solid step of improvement, even though like occasionally, these cheaters are out there and it feels like, there's cheating around every corner, and there's bot ring, and there's robots in your kitchen, and maybe there's robots in here, maybe one of you is a robot, right? But actually things aren't as bad as they might appear. And like, you have to remember, like, there's this bias towards okay, I gotta give this guy, can I give this guy the gate code?
Yes, sir.
There's this bias, there's this thing that there's even a study done on this or a couple studies, in fact, that were done on this, where basically if you always focus on the things that are wrong, it appears as though things never actually get better, even though they actually do. Like if you focus on the faults and the faults are negated, and you keep focusing on the faults, you always focus on the faults, and you're just perpetually unhappy. And so what it suggests is that, in fact, like, it is in this case study. I need to find the actual case study, but I remember I read 2 of them that suggested, okay, well, if you keep focusing on these faults, this is all you'll just see. And you have to remember that your perception is relative to how you view other things, and that in fact, like, it's a bit of an illusion to constantly think like evil's all around you all the time, and to remember how like the availability heuristic is like clouding judgment in many different ways. It's very hard to do, to like get around your like perception of things. And but yeah, in order to improve things in a way to make things better for everyone, that I think it's possible. It would be really great if we could get to the point of where poker is a spectator game, and people want to watch that don't have to be hardcore fans of poker.
Yeah, I think that's very well stated. I know you got to get out of here. I appreciate your time and coming into the studio. We got to do this again whenever you're not so pressed. Okay, cool. And I'm looking forward to the follow-up to this, I guess, when you come around to my side and seeing how it's all just lost.
Maybe he'll go into the lab and find something.
Yeah. Maybe he'll bring you around to his side.
Yeah, maybe I'll show you some sides of the jungle, of the sides of the world.
Well, I'll do a little ayahuasca, and we're gonna solve the online poker problem. It's a date.
Okay, one more thing. I would like to give props to you, Berkey, because one thing I've noticed about a lot of these poker players is a lot of them like to talk shit or whatever. I don't know if they talk shit about you or not, to be honest.
They do.
Okay. Well, in defense of you, by the way, a lot of these, when I look at a lot of these poker players, I see like, okay, what's so special about all these guys? They're just like fucking nerdy poker players, and they're like kind of good at poker. Who cares? But like when I see you, Berkey, I see that you're like good at like basically all the things that they're not good at, and a lot of like real life skills.
Thank you, John.
And like, look at this studio, and I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, who cares about these online nerds that maybe they beat 5-10 or something?
He's pointing
that are talking shit. Like,
online nerd over here.
He's pointing.
Whereas all these other skills, in my opinion, are much more valuable, and it can be quite a trap to to point the finger at someone else when they have some kind of weakness, and not look at your own or see all the strength that someone else might have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take too much offense to it, man. Most of them are young, and then the rest of them are polk. So it's just like, well, whatever. that's just the life we live.
And Doug has a lot of positives too, and he likes to cause a little bit of drama as well. Yeah. Anyway, I got to get out of here. But
all right,
thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jungle.
Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you. All right, that was a spicy one. Much love to the jungle. Appreciate the end there as well. How do we follow this up? What do you guys want to do?
I don't appreciate the ending.
No.
He called me a nerd.
Well,
He wasn't specifically talking about you.
yeah,
He did this
No,
one.
he
Yeah,
plays
maybe.
directly at
Yeah,
you,
okay, yeah,
100%.
maybe. Yeah.
You were the nerd that he
Yeah,
was
you
talking
probably
about.
I mean,
that
you
one
know, he
coming.
brought a little ray of hope
Yeah.
out there.
I think it's a
I'll
good
see if I
point
can squash
though,
that.
like that. Especially if you're on the internet a lot, it's so easy to develop a negative bias of the world and everything.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think we do overlook just how rotted our brains have become.
I mean, we
with
almost at
negativity.
this point have to start brainwashing positivity into ourselves because of how
Hashtag
much
positivity.
negative accidental brainwashing we get from looking at the internet.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
Just
or-
because negativity, I mean, we run a podcast, we know negative stories get more clicks. They just do. And
100%.
it's like that
Not even
people
close.
love scandals, people love bad stuff that happens. So it's like it's really easy to get accidentally brainwashed into thinking the world is ending.
I mean,
Should we start a new trend? Every show begins with a 5-minute shout out to everyone doing
a good job?
Yeah.
I might- nah.
but if you started
Sounds
with 5
real
minutes of
boring.
being shitty about someone, now you're cooking.
Well, we usually do that, but
Wait, hold on. Are you going to replace it with the 5-minute intro? Is that what happens
yeah,
here?
yeah.
Oh.
No more
It's
Steelers.
boring.
Instead of
No,
us
no,
talking
no.
about Steelers for 5 minutes
Oh
and
my
how
god.
great
Okay,
they
then
are.
yes. If it's instead of Steelers
Okay.
and Buccos, then yes, we should do that.
No. I meant like the 5-minute countdown.
No,
I don't
no.
know who the
got
hell
the
that
defensive
is.
player of the year over TJ
I
Watt.
can't believe
We
it.
can't talk about it today. I'm too upset. The issue
upset.
is the issue is not actually giving people their props, because I would be totally fine with that. It's who's gonna do the legwork to actually uncover people that are doing good
Who's
things.
going to carry the boats and the logs?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Maybe it's just a
You.
sign that things are actually quite good. That we just expect people to be
We
doing
expect
good
greatness.
stuff, and then we just find the bad stuff in it.
Yeah, like, you know, like Phil Galfond, day in and day out, just doing great things.
We could just talk about him for 5 minutes every day.
Right. But it's like, it's the standard. You know, you just
Yeah.
don't talk about the standard. You accept the standard.
Exactly.
Standard
Yeah,
is-
the
talk about the
standard
things-
is goodness.
Yeah, you talk about the things that deviate off of the standard, which is, you know, some other fucking bot ring that just cropped up in the
Right.
middle of nowhere, middle of Eastern Europe. And it's like, okay, well, this is a problem. We should talk about our problems.
Yeah.
That's really what this has turned into. Like
Group
this,
therapy.
yeah, it's some level of like community therapy where it's like, all right, guys, like, who's in the muck today?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's the opposite of being in the muck?
Out of the muck.
in
Up
the
good.
Up good,
Yep.
bro is
You're on
up
heat.
good.
Yeah.
All
Who's
right,
on
well,
You're on heat. You're in heat.
Think you're
in
on,
heat.
in heat. On heat.
someone's
like,
something.
Who's on a heater?
Then again, when it comes to the jungle, like you're not getting shot in the leg. Like the problems of this society are different than they used to be.
Yeah, and you
Like
know,
$10 million is
But
a
yeah.
lot, man.
Also,
Right.
like the
Right.
like the Dubai and Japan thing, like the cultures are just your people are raised from as a baby, so
They're more
differently
collective.
that it's really hard to.
at least for Dubai, also, it's very affluent. So there isn't a lot of poverty. The incentive isn't really as great, you know. Like
They're
When-
heavily shame-based cultures. I mean, I was
Japan,
raised,
for
I was
sure,
raised by
right?
a Japanese mom,
Yeah.
and they're very like have to be polite, have to care about what other people are doing, like make sure you know. It's like a very, but it's not like because it's good. It's like because otherwise you're a terrible person.
Right. You're
Right.
a burden to
It's very
society.
shame-based.
that's also relatable if you grew up Catholic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. We know.
Got you don't want to get those knuckles bashed.
Do not stick your chopsticks
Knuckles.
in, or we are all gonna die. I'm like, oh my god,
I don't want to die.
sorry, I killed everyone.
I'm gonna die. In
We got some answers to what's the opposite of in the muck.
Okay.
coming in.
Okay.
All right, let's hear him. Connie.
Limo says in the money.
Okay.
Ben Hutt-
She's such
Hughes-
a boomer, man.
Really
I
is
like
such a
that one.
boomer.
That's probably 'cause-
We're in the
Story checks out.
money.
Sick
we
min
made
cash.
0.5x our buy-in.
Ben says running pure.
Okay.
I can get behind that one.
Yeah, Pure was a big one
I
for
think
us coming up.
upswinging, right?
I refuse.
Or Daniel Williams said that. Somebody.
Who's cooking?
I opt out of upswing.
Yeah.
Right.
Not,
Baked
Oh,
Alaska
okay.
does say cooking.
I do like cooking.
Cooking, I think cooking's it.
Bust
Yeah,
it, bust it.
Okay, I like
cooking?
that.
Who's
Who's
cooking?
cooking?
Who's in the muck and who's cooking?
Okay,
Yeah, I like that. That's it.
I think we need to introduce a new segment of who's cooking.
Who's
Cooking.
cooking?
So I can come up with some like
Who's the
hands that I
chef?
played well.
Yeah.
and we can
Yeah.
discuss why.
Well,
I played
maybe
them
they're
well.
played well,
and then
and
it ends. And it's
Instead
like,
of just
wait,
Brian's in the
he
muck,
was
fucking
actually
muck
in the
again.
muck. It was
Yeah.
really bad, and
I
he got
actually,
lucky.
yeah, I actually kind of don't hate this. Like, it'd be nice to use the wizard to show some.
Some positive
Well,
stuff.
I mean, you know, to be fair,
praise me, daddy.
to be yeah,
Yeah, we got something for our people with praise kinks
Except
and
me,
degradation
yeah.
kinks.
Accept me, daddy.
We love
Tell
it.
me I'm good. Tell me I'm good.
it is really funny.
Tell me
like,
I'm cool and cooking.
in the same breath as me calling Nikki a boomer, like she just nailed the biggest catchphrase of 2024 for us with "Reject me, daddy." It's just all over from there.
Put on a shirt.
I just saw her comment. It was obvious, you fuck. That's what a boomer would say. We do have one thing to wrap up on. We can go through this pretty quickly. It is cringe stuff that poker players do according to Reddit. I feel like we need an intro for this.
We were just talking about how you spend all your time on Reddit or in the Discord thread.
Yeah, I replied to it. I actually, this is maybe me being a bit of a boomer, but I actually can't even navigate the site.
It's not.
truly
Reddit's
can't.
not like cool anymore. Like Reddit was cool in like 2011. Now it's just all like.
Reddit feels like 4chan to me. Like,
What's
It's
that?
not. No. It's way more. It's like way. 4chan was like the Wild West. Like Reddit used to be kind of like that.
Okay.
And then now it's just become like way too policed. And you don't see
I've
the
tried
same
to like look to see if the podcast ever has any hits on there or whatever, and like I don't even know how to get past the search function. It'll be like log in, and I'm like, I don't have an account, and they're like,
Okay,
make
well,
an account. I'm like,
it's
I don't
pretty
want to make
easy.
an account.
The UI is pretty easy. I don't know. That might be a personal problem.
Well, why does it always want me to log in? Why can't I just
you
search
don't
for
have
that?
to log in.
Well, then it wants me to download the app.
Yeah.
You just say no.
Yeah, and then it's just like fuck you.
No, it's not. It just opens a page.
Fuck you. Quit.
I think you say fuck you when you see all the pop-ups and then you just
That
give
could
up.
very well be true.
I'm
Anyway.
right there with you, Berk.
Yeah,
Every time I go on Reddit, I'm there for like 5 seconds. Like, ah, fuck this. I'm out.
Yeah, it's I can't navigate anymore.
Yeah.
Like, just
It's
take
just
me
a-
to the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I'm just
it's a
like,
big
just
echo
put
chamber.
it on Twitter and I'll read it there.
Exactly.
Honestly, I've been on Twitter so much less since I deleted it off my like main phone.
Oh,
How
I
do you
did that
feel?
like years
So
ago.
good.
It's
Isn't
so
it nice?
nice.
Wait, you
I
don't
took
have
a
Twitter on
break
your phone?
No, I
and-
only use the browser. I only use the browser, but it's this really sick hack where most of the time you're not involved, but then whenever you get wrapped in a thread, you feel like the biggest degen on the planet because you have to continually keep opening Chrome. Like you have to actively open Chrome,
Right.
type in the and be like, all right, what this motherfucker's saying now.
Which you're doing anyway.
This is
so
actually
it
absurd.
doesn't
Are
really
they
do
actually
anything.
making a parody of their own show, interviewing an alt account right now? Like, tell me more.
Well,
the state of content?
Yeah, it's really hit fucking rock bottom at this point.
Maybe that just means there's not actually enough scandals.
Right.
We need something,
Or
know,
at least
because
not enough
we got a
creativity.
little spoiled with the frog poison cult thing. That was like
We had a good-
so fun.
We had a good 6 months.
to follow along, and now we have bots in Eastern Europe. Like that's not as
Right.
exciting.
Yeah, we
so-
really
Yeah,
missed an opportunity of
predictable.
somebody doing the combo.
Yeah.
we really need video of the sweatshops.
I'm sorry. What?
The bot sweatshops.
Oh.
There's got to be multiple people working there,
We saw
right?
the one where they have like
different
87
sweatshops.
phones just like lined up on a wall operating by
yeah,
itself, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the,
I
and
wanna
the
see
apps and stuff.
Everybody, send in a video of your bot sweatshop, please.
Yeah. What are your working conditions like? Let us help you.
What are you paying the hourly
We're
to
here to
these?
help.
Yeah, we would like to know what the
Let's
developers
unionize.
are
Are we
going
gonna give it a 100K challenge and then reject it?
Well, I mean, why not? If you could just get all the free
We
work
could
and
just
then never have
say
to pay
it.
out.
We don't need to actually pay.
Did we find out if they actually paid?
They did not. What happened was everyone self-reported because the rules of the contest weren't very clear. So they said, "Hi, I'm a working bot. Where do I collect my money?" And they're like, "You didn't play 5,000 hands, and we just banned your account."
Damn it.
Fuck.
Should have kept it to yourself, cheater.
Wait, no, really? Did they ban those accounts?
Well,
they disabled them
like
probably.
permanently, but like I think they were like, "Nope, we caught you."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you didn't catch me. I just told on myself because I didn't know where to submit the
I
evidence.
thought that you wanted this.
This is what you asked for. What the fuck?
Oh, that's quite great.
But yeah, so yeah, no one got paid. All right. So cringy things according to Reddit.
Oh my god, this one is so fucking. Oof.
Solver is checking 67.98% of the time here and betting
Landon.
23.87. The other 8.5%, 8.15% of the time is reserved for tipping the dealer. I don't really understand solvers. If you play how the solver would, you're extremely predictable to anybody else that has studied solvers. What are your thoughts on those?
On solvers?
That's a very common sentiment.
Yes, I agree. I
Especially
think so
at the
too.
like tables that I play. Like people are always saying,
Yeah, I'm curious.
and I say, you're right.
What's your thoughts on if you study the solver and play like the solver, then you're predictable to another person who's done the same? Isn't this just a high roller?
Yeah, you're predictable because you're not losing money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't make you easy to play against.
Well,
Right.
It does. You just do what the solver would do.
Yeah, just,
The
You gotta
solver
throw-
does like insane shit. That's
You
scary.
gotta throw some like 9-4 offs in your pre-flop range. That way they'll never put you on it if they think you're playing
There you
GTO.
go.
Very valid.
There you go.
Very valid, Tortoise.
but I mean, it does kind of go back to what we were talking about in respect to kind versus unkind environment, where people kind of know the bounds of the game, but the way you make your win rate is by being better at that game than everybody else.
Yeah, and also
If
nobody,
if the environment is kind.
nobody plays perfect. Nobody plays
Right.
exactly like the solver,
You would
and that's
have
where the
to
exploits.
know.
Even I would assume even in the high rollers, right? Like the best people win the high rollers are knowing when people are making mistakes and then exploiting that in a way, right?
yes,
Isn't it like,
yes.
oh, this is this percent
Like
pot
yes,
bet, or-
yes
and
to
then
a
they don't,
degree.
and then, yeah.
Yes to a degree, but no, not to that degree. Like I don't think people are missing sizing errors, and if they are, like the amount of EV exchange there is so negligent, or negligible rather. I think that the thing that we can observe from high rollers is that, of course, there are people who gain some sort of edge, but it's also very difficult to quantify how big that edge is because the sample is relatively small, and we're seeing the majority of win rates converge on zero, right? So basically, if you take out, like, call it the top 25% of a high roller pool, and you assume them to have some sort of win rate, maybe even the top 33%, I don't know. I don't know at what point people begin losing, but if you assume like the top third of the pool has a win rate, what you'll find is that they're often just divvying up the recreationals in the pool who are accounting for like, maybe
Minus
60,
30%.
yeah, like
minus
they might
50%.
be accounting for like 60% of the loss rate of the remaining 66%, right?
Yeah, and when you see maybe like the top 10, 15, 20 players in the world, and when you see one just like just start winning everything, is it just a product of variance?
I mean, yeah, it's a sun run,
is
right?
it-
Like,
yeah.
it's not to it's
And
not
they're
to
smaller
take
fields too.
right. It's not to take anything away from them, right? Like what Adamo
Right.
did was
Right.
incredible.
You still
but-
have to have tremendous skill to do this. You just have to also run well at the same time.
Sometimes
It's like
it just
not,
feels-
it's
It
like
just feels like a fool's errand.
right. Like if you
Right,
know,
like you're just constantly trying to sign up for
Yeah.
a sit and go with 8 of the best players in the world in a wreck
right.
kind of thing, right? Like that's basically what it extrapolates out to is like you get 8 of the best and a wreck, and then another 8 of the best and a wreck, and now that wreck is contributing win rate to everybody else, kind of thing. And that's a simple model. Like obviously, I know that there are people out there who are probably crushing it, like Ike or whatever. They're just like, this guy doesn't know shit. Like there's so much money to be made.
Yeah.
But my greater point is that wicked environments will just tend to offer way, way, way more money because you're not bounded by the quote unquote theoretical rules of the game.
Right.
Right. Like what
Going
we mean
back
by
to the Reddit post.
yeah, like what we mean by a wicked environment is people that are just forfeiting EV so freely because they don't care to play within the boundaries of game
Right,
theory.
they won't play the rules because they'd rather play their way.
Correct.
Which loses to the
Like
rules.
in some ways it does become predictable, I'm sure, to them, but they're also like putting each other in different spots.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah, it's
still
like
difficult.
it's like predictably indifferent.
Yeah, well, indifferent means your win rate in that spot is 0.
Right. And that's, I guess, the argument that I'm making is that the better everybody gets, the more frequent that people are just put into a position where they're generally just like.
So
breaking
whoever
even.
wins is whoever randomizes correctly.
or runs the best, you know.
It's like yeah. You're just like, well, okay, you randomized and now you landed on the right decision. But if
They're
it's
also
randomized,
human,
if
maybe they'll
if
be
you landed
tired
on
or-
something else, then you would have folded and lost the pot.
End of the day, like there's still a
That's
lot of win
one
rate.
That's a
There-
one of one.
There's still a lot of win rate in the pool, though. I would say
For sure, for
like
sure.
the
And the
top-
bigger the pool, obviously, the more true that becomes.
I mean, we see that in the big field mains.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
most
yeah.
people don't play the solver.
Even just like the
Adaptable
25Ks that
strategy.
get like 150 people.
Yeah.
Like those pools are obviously quite soft and and the win rate is going to be relatively high because now it's like the top third are winning so much more. It's so much more compounded because it's not just the recreationals that are contributing to the pool. Now it's like this large group of weak regs that think that they're winning off of the recs.
It's the pool, and then it's the people that think they're slightly beating the super losers,
Right.
and then the regs that are decent are beating them, and then it's just a very food chain-esque system.
Yeah.
But like that's why WSOP.
Same thing happens at the Jewel.
Yeah, sure.
The thing that I think is interesting though about this Reddit comment is I think that there is a notion in theory that can be derived from this that actually is sort of true, right? So it's like the quote unquote, I don't really understand solvers. If you play like a solver, then you're predictable to anybody else who studied the solver.
I like that username checks out.
Amateur poker style. Yeah, that's true. But I think like the interesting thing here is that what's kind of unspoken is the assumption that whatever it is that you're studying has the same default variable, right? The same ranges and things like that. So there is like this way to like have custom ranges in a certain sense that may play in your environment, but not in all environments, right? Like I know Bobby's Room, for example, it's a unique game format. It's 100-100 with a 100 ante. That's going to require a different range set than 50-100-100 ante, right? It's going to require a different range set than 100-200 400 with a big blind ante. Like all of these variables still they change things enough that we become pretty fuzzy on where the actual zero EV line comes. You know, I've looked at like 2 blinds with a big blind ante and no rake spots, and I've seen everything from button opening 45%, big blind defending 42% with a 16% 3-bet frequency to button opening like 59% and big blind defending like 65% through call and 12% through raise.
That's a massive difference.
Huge difference, right? And it's like I look at the two of them and I just kind of say to myself like, okay, well, I'm not sure which one of these is theoretically correct, but what I do recognize is that the wider range is the one that I commonly see played in my environment. Yeah. And so now if I calibrate towards that, I'm able to just gain a lot of EV by having vision over post-flop strategies that actually have these ranges prefixed, right? Because now the strategies just changed tremendously. If you give them the tighter range, you know, we might not get to range bet on certain textures. But when you give them the wider range, it's just like a pure B33 on like King 10 deuce or something like that, button versus big blind, where like, you know, maybe with the tighter range, we're forced to check back at some sort of frequency. Bad example maybe, but
speaks to why pool, like knowing your pool's tendencies and having experience in a pool is like worth so much.
Yes.
Even with solvers, like someone could be a really good theorist and study all day, but they don't play, and then they're not really used to, like, I find that people who they play the same pool, like Darren Elias is a good example. He's really good at the pool. Like he's so adjusted to the pool that he rises above like very often.
He's making a lot of win rate on the fringes.
Yeah.
Right. So most people are just making their core
and you
win
learn
rate.
the fringes by experience in the pool. So I think like pool experience still is like accounts for so much win rate.
Yeah, I think live you experience that like through just sheer reps and your own personal bias of observation. And then I think online it's like something like Nick Howard does with Detox, where it's just like you just have tens of millions of hands that you're able to comb through and say like, this guy's a whale because of these 7 data points that clearly indicate that he's
like
a whale.
The regs tend to deviate here,
right.
You know, like stuff like that.
You're not right all the time, but you're right enough to make money.
Yeah, being right enough to make money is...
It's hard enough to win as it is.
Yeah, pretty nice way to
win
win
all the
time.
time.
The game is gone. All right, let's look at some more of these.
Start trading shitcoin.
Smooth Skunk says, check in the dark. Bro, you weren't the pre-flop aggressor. Congrats on not donking.
This is Arthur Fist at its finest.
I'm not even sure what this means, to be quite honest.
It just means like congrats for checking in the dark, as you're supposed to just range check dark because you're not the aggressor.
Not always,
but thank you.
Right. Yeah.
Got some leads.
Right.
Well, lead FC.
5-7-6 from the big blind or something.
He's basically saying like congrats on not having a donking range.
Right.
Which was this you that was arguing?
This was me. Yeah, because I said that you're giving away more information when you check dark.
Oh, it was Guapo that checks dark.
No, it was Nikki.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was
that's right.
Nikki. She checked dark, and
Why
I was
do
like,
people
"Don't check dark." And I was like, and she's like, "Why?" Then they don't know what I'm gonna do. They don't know like, and I'm like, "No, it's the opposite, right? When you check dark, you're telling them that you have no lead range. So like when you just if you're always gonna check no matter what, at least do it in the light. That way, they might think, "Oh, there's part of the light." Well, whatever. When
checking the light.
Checking the light, right. But like, well, people do. You never heard people say that?
I do, but it's just like, all right.
But like, no, but
They're having a real moment.
You never heard that before?
Right, but when you obviously, if you're planning on checking your entire range and you do it after the cards are out, they at least think like, well, maybe there's a part of their range that would have led.
I kind of just think it's like a
It's a very small, tiny little thing that probably doesn't matter that much, but
it
But I
matters
think
a
people
lot.
just do it
It
because they
matters
see,
so much.
they see it on shows, and Phil Helmuth used to do it on TV a lot, and then they're like, a lot of times when you see like in these low stakes games, like people really feel like it's their moment when action's on them. You know, like they're really like, I'm like this guy on the TV, and so they're really kind of like. Like they want to like seem kind of like, but it's like old stuff they're watching, so they kind of just look like a boomer
never
a
change. Never change. I hope that this aspect of poker never changes.
I
You
don't
keep
think
checking in the dark, everybody.
No, it won't though. That's like the beauty of live poker. Like it won't.
Yeah.
it hasn't
really
changed in
don't think it
15
will.
years, so I don't know why it would change.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the dinosaur aspect of it. All right. Discussing things like ranges, GTO, defense frequencies, or any other strategy discussion at a
that's
fucking
a big
2-5 game full of recreational
That
players.
Like this can get a thumbs up, man. Like you got this is cringe.
yeah.
Cringe.
This is cringe, mate.
It doesn't really help. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree. I largely agree. I think that generally speaking, people are too sensitive to this, though.
It's not even about gatekeeping info. Yeah. Like it's not about that.
No,
it's
it's
about
not
how
about
you
that.
go about saying
what I've seen happen when this happens, like, is that the Rex will be like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing playing this game. And they'll like rack up sometimes because it's like,
okay,
oh,
that's a problem.
Well, this is like, wait, like I'm definitely losing here. Like they're not like
that's
dumb.
when it goes
like
too
they
far.
can recognize that like, oh, they're talking about stuff that I've never even heard of. I'm losing.
Where
It's a difference between like just making one comment and having a full-fledged like
if you're
5-10
like,
minute
oh,
conversation on a spot.
I think that
which you see how like it'll be like two regs like acting like nobody else is at the table, like talking in depth about
deep
a
theory
spot
or
that just
something,
happened against a rec. Like and he's like, well, his range is gonna be. It's like, oh, that guy's a whale. Like, I've really heard people call people whales like at the table as if they can't hear them.
It's crazy.
So that part is, I think people are generally overly sensitive about not actually directly calling someone a whale, but like basically even referencing things like fish, whale, VIP, stuff like that when there are recreationals around. I know like a lot of regs will just get really sensitive to this sort of language and be like, don't talk about that whenever there's Rex in the game. It's like, buddy,
they know who they are.
They fucking know.
They know, and they don't think it's them.
They don't care.
Right, and that's
one part of it. Yeah,
right. It's like when you call another reg a whale,
mm-hmm.
the recreational who overheard you say that at no point in time thinks to himself, well, if he's a whale, what the fuck am I? No. He sits there and goes, yeah, you know what? He is a goddamn whale. I can make money off of that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that we take it one step too far. Like, I totally agree with this. Don't have like a theoretical discussion at the table.
Right.
But hands have been being discussed at the table since the dawn of time. Of course. If you want to talk in like, very, very generic terms of just like, I like a big bet there, I like a small bet there, like I don't think he has the nuts whenever I do, like whatever, man. No one is gonna listen to that conversation and just be like, wow, I'm way out of my depth.
Like
here.
I've had the or like even if a rec is like, sometimes they'll be like, I don't know, what do you think? Like they want to talk. Like that's like that's part of the social.
This literally happened. This happened when I was playing in Florida at the 5K, where like someone jammed 7.5 bigs from hijack, and then button called off ace-7 off, and like just looked next to me and was like, oh, is that a call there? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like it seems close. Like there's a big small blind, and I don't have to scream at the table like, hey guys, what did you think about that call?
Right.
Like pretty whale, huh?
Or like or like get it deep into theory. But I think it's more so when it's like two regs and they're like deep in a theoretical discussion about like a hand that just happened.
It all stinks.
Because that just like it's like I could imagine being on the other end of that and thinking like, I'm way out of my depths here.
It's
like,
a very
what am I
weird ego
doing?
trip to have like the huge conversation where it's like
It's usually
there's someone open jams and like someone tries to like yell out the combos of what they think it was, like, oh, like Jack 10 suit or Queen 10 suit, and like someone that would never do that stuff in their life is like, what are you talking? Like, what,
Really, when
what are
they
we
do that,
doing
they just
here?
like out themselves.
Yeah, it's like why
Like,
we
people
don't
like
have to
that.
do all of that, you know? Like someone asks about, oh, did I have a good bluff catch there? Like you can say, I think it was good, think it was bad, has some good things, bad things, but you don't have to go into the nuance and the EV and randomizing.
The 10 of spades actually blocks. It's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, you don't have to
do that.
just be like, oh, it seems kind of close, you know?
Yeah.
And if
Seems fine.
and if you don't think
You
it's that
should
close,
just
be like,
say,
oh,
seems
like you just
fine.
pick, I'd fold there, but like that's me.
Yeah.
And you don't have to make it this shame game of do
I
you
will
know
say,
what
or
the
I'll be
solve
like, I
says.
fold there, but I'm a nit.
Yeah.
Like, I'll
Yeah.
like be self-deprecating about
That's
it.
nice. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. I'm just like a big proponent of dunking on other regs because we can take it. Like I think we should just be able to have that discourse back and forth. And I think it actually ultimately makes Rex more comfortable. Like they understand there's a pecking order. And if they can like go around the table and like align themselves almost with other regs where they're just like, he is the weak one. We're going to fucking get him today.
Yeah, you're right. That
You're
guy
also
does suck.
you're also playing at a different stake with different people.
That's true.
Like your people they're well aware of what's going
They're
on.
more in the know.
Your closed group, club
I
group.
gotta tell you, man, I really don't think guys that sit down at 2-5 that like haven't played in 6 months and have no experience playing poker really think to themselves like, I'm the fucking guy.
Yeah, I love
But
I'm
they-
the guy.
but they do when they start sharing a bunch of.
Today I'm the guy.
I think
I mean, the
there's a
guy
lot
that's
of them out
losing or
there.
winning.
Winning,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like I'm that dude, you know?
Well, if they they win a couple pots.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Then
if
they
they're
start
feeling
feeling like the
themselves, they're
guy.
feeling themselves. You know, that's great too. But I also don't think there's any downside to letting them know who's not the guy,
Yeah.
Especially if that's like another reg.
I mean,
Yeah, I
only
think
if it's
shitting on
another
other
reg.
regs is fine.
Yeah, yeah. Let's all make okay. Today's the day we normalize it. Shit on each other at the
It's
table.
fine because it's a bit of it's sort of like
That might be
your
a crime.
fellow
Another
regs.
poop gate.
Those are your coworkers, kind of.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you sort
Certain
of
camaraderie.
yeah, you sort of pass money back and forth, and
Yeah.
you kind of shit on each other. I mean, it's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People shit on their coworkers.
All
That's
the
like
time.
a dynamic everywhere.
Yeah. It's just
Someone
like,
knit rolls somebody, you tell them.
don't eat my
Yeah.
fucking sandwich, Sally. You know.
I mean, every time I lose a pot, people are telling me, "Oh, you're gonna be in the muck."
I actually love that.
That's wholesome boomer content.
That is wholesome boomer content. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Big shout out to Jungleman for joining us. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us as well. Shout out to the team. Quick reminder that if you haven't already, click that link regarding Playground, getting information if you guys are thinking about coming to Montreal.
Like
I
and
will be there,
subscribe.
the 31st. All right, since Landon,
Play the
Name sounds
bell.
like a
since
strip
Landon
club.
asked for it.
Yeah, I need to see it. Nikki is really good at putting it.
she went quite overboard, to say the least. Where did it go?
Can't even find it.
I can't find it now.
What now? We're not gonna get any subscribers.
Well,
Oh
it's
man,
just
they have
gone.
no idea what to do.
Guapo,
It's gone.
come back.
I don't even know what happened.
Well,
What happened to Guapo?
Ask Nikki. Ask Nikki.
We haven't heard from Guapo, by the way, since the last we heard from him was a video of him deflating
Reject
balloons
me, Daddy.
at a party in fucking Malaysia or wherever.
Oh man, we should have definitely
Should have put that on.
Yeah.
The next day, he showed us a bunch of knockoff shoes.
Yeah, so
That's
I
true,
don't.
too.
He might have be in some shady stuff at this point. I'm not really sure what's going
I
on.
honestly think
I
he's never
can-
coming back.
I can guarantee you he's into some shady stuff. But
Well,
please,
he's definitely getting stuff to resell on eBay.
100%. That's probably what happened. He's probably just trapped at customs.
Yeah, he's
With
got
like $1,000
he
worth
has
of ripped
a whole
off merch.
suitcase full of fake
Yeah.
Yeezys
No.
that he's
Yeah.
like
he just
ready
went
to
there
put
with
on
like
eBay.
4 empty suitcases.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We'll be back again tomorrow at noon. Whoops, my bad. Don't forget to like, subscribe, smash that bell, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. We'll be back at noon tomorrow with a brand new In the Muck segment to wrap up this week. We'll see you all then.
Peace.